Hi, it's Oscar. Welcome to another How with ServiceNow. In this episode, I'm going to install the MID server to run discovery on a Windows server. As you can see, this is my virtual machine that I had created for the MID server. This has 80 gigs of hard drive. It has 4 gigs of memory. This is in Amazon Web Service virtual machine. So the first thing we need to do is let's double check that we don't have any MID servers right now in the instance. And let's go in right away. The first thing we need to do is to create a ServiceNow account. So I'm gonna head there and I'm gonna click on new, and then I'm going to create this MID server, and then we can call it East, for instance. So I'm gonna have MID server East. I'm gonna save this user record. Then what I'm gonna do is, now we have to add the role of the MID server to the MID server account. So we'll look for, we have MID server, we can add this role to the MID server East account that I just created. And finally, what I'm gonna do is to set a password. So I'm gonna use this util from ServiceNow to generate the password, right? So it's a big password over there. I'm gonna copy that and then I'm gonna save it. And just for future reference, what I'm gonna do is, well, first, I don't need to reset the password. So I'm gonna check that. And finally, I have this notepad. So this is the MID server .east, and then this is gonna be the password. So I'm gonna use this one later when I'm installing the MID server software. So I'm gonna save it over there just for a while we start doing the rest of the things we need to. So if I go back to the MID server, then we have that application MID server right here. Of course, we have discovery, and then we have the downloads. Okay, on the downloads, what we want to download, because we want to install this MID server in a Windows server, right? It's a virtual machine. So we want to download the Windows software MSI. So we just click here in the download, and then we're just gonna have the MID server downloaded. I have it already here in the downloads. So I have it right here. So it's kind of big because it's a little more than 400 megs. And what I'm gonna do actually is to move this installer, and I will go to the root in C, and then I'm gonna create a MID server folder, and I'm gonna paste right here the installer. All right, we'll get back to this one in a minute. There are another couple of things we need to do before installing the MID server in our virtual machine. So the following step, so we need to open our server manager dashboard. This is coming with the Windows server, and what we need to do is to go to tools and then go to computer management. So that will come up in just a minute. This is the computer management. And actually what we need to do now is to create a local Windows service account. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to local users and groups, and then go to users. And then I'm gonna hit on new user, okay? So let's name this similar to what we have, what we name already with the ServiceNow account. So I'm gonna have the same name. I mean, you can pick any name, but I'm gonna make it easier for me to just keep the same name, straightforward. So it's mid.server.east, and then I'm gonna copy the same right here, and password. This is the good part. So we don't want the password never expires, right? And then we're gonna use a very strong password right here. And basically, just for you to notice, the password that I'm gonna have here for the Windows Service account, right, it's gonna be this awesome password. So I'm gonna paste it right here, and then I will confirm. Then I will hit the create button. You see that the form actually reset. I can close now, and then I can see that I have now my MID Server East local account created. The next step, we have to go back to our Server Manager dashboard, and then we're gonna go now with the local security policy. So here with this tool, what we want to do is to go and expand the local policies and then use rights assignment. Then we have to follow and scroll down a little bit, and then just find for logon as a service, right? So what we want is to have this particular Windows Service account to run as a service, right? That's what we need for the MID server. So now what I need to type here is mid.server.east. Then we can check on names. It will pull the actual account I just created a couple minutes back. Then I'll hit OK, then apply. As you can see, it's right here. We just added that one. Apply. And then OK. All right. So now we're ready. We're good to go to our next step. Okay, our next step is to go to the folder where we have the installer. And now we're gonna execute this one to start the MID server installation. Okay, now it has opened. I'm gonna click next. Then of course the license agreement. Then we're gonna keep the authentication type as basic. So what we need to pull is now the instance URL. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy the instance URL. Don't forget to copy entirely from HTTPS. All right. So I'm gonna paste it right here. Then we have our MID server username and MID server password, right? So remember we created that. So we have right here MID server East. This is the account created within ServiceNow, and the big password. Okay. So I'm gonna test the connection. And this should be successful because, yep, we got it because we just entered the name and the password for that one. Then we can go ahead and click on next. Right now on this screen, we have to give a name to the MID server so we can have a friendly name within ServiceNow to identify this MID server. Okay, so I'm just gonna call it MID Server East as well, right? So the name can have white spaces, so you can use underscore if you want. But now the service account name, so remember we created a service account, right? A local service account, and actually this this installer is gonna pick whatever we have created already. So we have here the MID Server East, and then we have to provide the password. So we have right here, this is the password. I would advise that you hit here and set service name manually, and you should make sure that you have a good name, because this is going to be the name of the service within Windows. Okay, so remember, we have a name and then we have a display name. So the name, try not to use white spaces. But on the display name, yes, you can have those white spaces in between the words. So here, I'm just going to have it as SNC_mid_east. And then I'll have it here as ServiceNow MID Server East. Okay. So we have blank space over there. All right. So this is the actual name of the service that is going to be created, and this is kind of the display name for this service. So I'm gonna hit validate MID server settings, and then is successful. Valid service settings. Then we can go to next. So now let's see, where do we want to install the MID server? Okay. So it has to be on root. And remember that we created the MID server folder in the root C drive. Okay, so you can leave it here. If you're planning to have more than one MID server installed on the machine, then I will advise you to create subfolders under the MID server for, I don't know, QA, dev, or even prod. You know, it's always recommended to have a unique and a lone virtual machine just for production. But sometimes you can use a virtual machine to have QA and dev MID servers both running in the same box. Okay, so just for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just gonna leave it right there in the MID server, and then I'm gonna click OK. So this is where the MID server is going to be installed. I hit next, and then I got to review the MID server configuration. So we have the instance name, we have the ServiceNow MID server username or the account in ServiceNow. We're not using any proxy. Then we have what's going to be the name of the MID server, what's going to be the name of the service in Windows, and the display name for that service. And finally, what Windows service account we're going to use for this MID server, right? So the MID server East as well. So I'm going to check the start MID server after installation, hit next, and then everything is ready to begin the installation, the actual installation. So I'm going to hit install, and we just wait for a few minutes to complete. As you can see, this has now, the installation has been completed, and then we just click on finish. So we have to give it a couple minutes perhaps to start seeing the MID server in our instance. So right now I just opened the MID servers, there's nothing yet there. So because the MID server will start running, and then it will start connecting with our instance, and then it will appear here in the MID servers list. So what I'm gonna do now is to hit in all to refresh the list, and there we have. So we have the MID server East, we have the host name, of course that IP address. We see that is logged in user using the Windows service account. So our next step, as you can see, the validated is no, the status is up. So the next step is that we need to validate this MID server. So we have to open the MID server and then click on validate. And then we will see this set initial selection criteria. So whether we want to have all these capabilities, right? So to allow all the applications, to allow all capabilities, to allow all IP ranges. For the sake of this demonstration, we're gonna save it as it is with everything is gonna be active. So I'm gonna hit save. And as you can see, it started to restart the MID server and doing the validation. Let's just give it a minute to refresh. Okay, so we're back, and then we can see that now validated has the value of yes. Okay, so the status is up. If I go back and click on servers, then I will see the status is up and validated. So it's good. We have installed the MID server successfully. And now we're ready to run discovery for the first time to discover the actual Windows box where we just installed the MID server. So in order to do that, I'm gonna copy the actual IP address, which is here in the host name. So this is the internal IP address, of course. And then I will go to discovery. And then I will go to discovery schedules and then do a quick discovery. So I'm gonna paste right here the IP address. This is the MID server. It picks the MID server automatically. And then I will just hit OK. This will create an entry for discovery. I'm gonna open this one, and then discovery will start running and doing all over those different phases, scanning ports, then classifying, understanding what kind of device has reached through those ports. That's where we get the classification. Then we understand whether the identification phase to understand whether we need to create a new CI or to update a new CI. I'm sorry, to update, well, an existing CI, right? So, and finally, the exploration phase, right? To pull all that information from the machine, in this case, the Windows server. And now we can see that discovery has finished. This discovery status is completed. I'm gonna hit refresh here just to get the latest on the discovery logs. So we have some information right here, but let me go first to the ECC queue to understand the multiple phases that ServiceNow has run. So initially we got Shazam, so just querying the ports on the device. Of course, one of those ports, the port 135, which is the WMI port, just replied, and that's where ServiceNow sent the classification for the WMI, and then it triggered the horizontal discovery proof, more specifically for the pattern for the Windows OS servers. And then so this was the scanning phase for the ports. This is the classification phase. Then we have the identification phase, right, where we understand now we're hitting Windows server, and then we're gonna know and through the identification rules to understand whether we need to create a new CI or update an existing CI. And then finally, it runs some other proofs and scanning for any other information we can pull from that server, and that's on the exploration phase. So we take a look here, we'll see that we have that CI created. It created first the CI, and then it got updated that CI again. So if I open this CI in the new tab, so this is the information it was found by ServiceNow. Okay, so because we're hitting a Windows 2022 data center operating system, right? And of course, that's a virtual machine. So that's why we have all this kind of information right here. So that simple is the way we could install the MID server and then run discovery to find that Windows box where we just installed the MID server. Okay, so we're good. It's done. And hope you enjoyed this session, and we'll see you at the next time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.